Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Reading from Srimad-Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 1, Text 1. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Janmadyasya yatan vayaditaratascha teshu abhignya svarat tene brahma hridaya adikave muhyanti yatsurayah tejo vari mridam yatha vinimayo yatrati sargom risha dhamna svena sada nirasta kuhakam satyam param dhimahi. Translation: O my Lord, Sri Krishna, son of Vasudeva, all-pervading personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. I meditate upon Lord Sri Krishna because he is the absolute truth and the primeval cause of all causes of the creation, sustenance and destruction of the manifested universes. He is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations, and he is independent because there is no other cause beyond him. It is he only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge unto the heart of Brahma Ji, the original living being. By him even the great sages and demigods are placed into illusion, as one is bewildered by the illusory representations of water seen in fire or land seen on water. Only because of him do the material universes temporarily manifested by the reactions of the three modes of nature appear factual, although they are unreal. I therefore meditate upon him, Lord Sri Krishna, who is eternally existent in the transcendental abode, which is forever free from the illusory representations of the material world. I meditate upon him, for he is the absolute truth. So, continuing in the purport, can you tell him? So, just continuing in the purport, I think this is the last but one paragraph. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur specifically deals with the original and pure sex psychology, Adi Rasa, devoid of all mundane inebriety. The whole material creation is moving under the principle of sex life. In modern civilization, sex life is the focal point for all activities. Wherever one turns its face, he sees sex life predominant. Therefore, sex life is not unreal. Its reality is experienced in the spiritual world. The material sex life is but a perverted reflection of the original fact. The original fact is in the absolute truth, and thus the absolute truth cannot be impersonal. It's not possible to be impersonal and contain pure sex life. Consequently, the impersonalist philosophers have given indirect impetus to the abominable mundane sex life because they have overstressed the impersonality of the ultimate truth. Consequently, man, without information of the actual spiritual form of sex, has accepted perverted material sex life as the all in all. There is a distinction between sex life in the diseased material condition and spiritual sex life. This Srimad-Bhagavatam will gradually elevate the unbiased reader to the highest perfectional stage of transcendence. It will enable him to transcend the three modes of material activities, fruitive actions, speculative philosophy, and worship of functional deities as inculcated in the Vedic verses. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschate Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasati Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Here the concept of Adi Rasa is mentioned in the purport. Adi means original or pure, and rasa, that is what the jiva experiences. There are different kind of rasas, we understand. So Prabhupada says that in Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary on this section, he deals with the original and pure sex psychology, adi rasa, devoid of mundane inebriety. So Prabhupada writes here that the whole material creation is moving under the principle of sex life. This is mentioned in Srimad-Bhagavatam, that pumsastriyam mituni bhavam etam tayo mito hirdaya granthi ahu atagriha ksheta sutapta vittai janasya moho ayam aham mamiti. So Prabhupada will quote this verse and says, basic principle of material life is the sex attraction between man and woman, by which their hearts are tied together in a knot. So mituni bhavam etam hirdaya granthi ahu. So that knot is tied and the attachment becomes very strong. So the whole impetus, Prabhupada would mention how, what was that called? Some Marshall's law in economics he used to mention about, that for economic prosperity, people have to be married. I think that was something like that. Because if someone is married, then they're motivated to work hard for the family, struggle. They will not think about anything else, that they have to earn money. If someone is not married, then they'll not be very serious. They'll not be obligated or forced to work and earn anything, because one person can take care of himself. So this, for material life, there has to, to be sustained, there has to be that marriage institution. What was it? Marshall's law, he used to say. Okay, anyway. So here, as Prabhupada says, actually material life here, in the modern civilization, before that, whole material creation is moving under principle of sex life. So Prabhupada explained how even skyscrapers are built because of that. And why someone earns so much money, buys so many cars, or spends so much money looking good. This is the whole point. This is the whole principle. And in modern civilization, he says, sex life is a focal point for all activities. Focal point. Economy, as we said, the industry, cosmetic industry, luxury car, hotel, whatever, industry. Otherwise, these things are not needed. Actually, these things are not needed at all. But then why are people pursuing it? Because of this point. Because of sex life. So here it's written, wherever one turns his face, he sees sex life predominant, especially now in Kali Yuga, especially in Bangalore, more than other parts of India. But if you especially go in other Western countries, it's more so. Here still the Vedic culture was there, so this is balancing very strongly. So Prabhupada makes a point here, very important, how to understand this. He writes here, actually sex life is not unreal. The reality is experienced in the spiritual world. Everything in the material world is a perverted reflection of the spiritual world, but in a perverted way, upside down. So everything here is actually from there. Here the example is given, like the jivas who wanted to play God, they were brought here, and one imitation Vaikuntha is made, that okay, you can try and enjoy yourself, but because the whole idea of us enjoying ourselves, this is a perverted idea, this is unreal, it's not true. And so this world is also unreal and not true, everything is upside down. In Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3, Prabhupada writes in that verse, Kama Esha, Krodha Esha, Rajguna Samudbhava. So he said that, okay, that love of God has been turned into lust. That is it's a perverted idea of love of God actually. And so, in the same way, this material world, everything is not in the original pure state. It is, back to front. Actually, the Adi Rasa is the highest principle in devotional life, but here it's become the lowest thing, something not to be done in public or discussed. So Prabhupada said that it's not unreal, but it has its reality somewhere. And what is here is not the real thing, but it's been made, people are pursuing this without knowledge of the real thing, without that knowledge. Of course, that knowledge was taken away because they didn't want it. We didn't want to serve Krishna, we don't want to know Krishna, so that knowledge is not there now. It's covered. Avrityam jnanam etena. Jnanino nitya vedina. Eternal enemy is known as lust. Eternal enemy. The eternal enemy covered the knowledge of the living entity. Eternal enemy is our desire to enjoy ourselves separate from Krishna. That is calm. That is supposed to be explained in Bhagavad Gita as the biggest sin. Mahashano, Mahapapma, Vidhi Einam Hi Vedinam. That this is the greatest sin and the greatest enemy of the jiva, because it will bind him to this material world. Actually, what the jiva has to aspire for is the original rasa coming from the spiritual world. That requires some level of purification and further spiritual practice. So the reality is experienced in the spiritual world. But it's something you have to know. It's not that either you know or you don't know. You can't imagine or think. We either have that level of realization or we don't. And if we don't, better not to try to pursue that. That comes with level of bhakti, practice, then one realizes. It's something very different from mundane sex life. It's like gold and iron. It's very different. You cannot artificially try to know what it is. Okay, the absolute truth is not impersonal. He's personal. So, therefore there is this Adi Rasa. But some people claim impersonal. The Supreme Absolute Truth is impersonal. So actually here Prabhupada writes, they have done a great disservice to the spiritual cause, because they're saying here that the Absolute is impersonal, so therefore there is no Adi Rasa, there is nothing in the spiritual world, so then everyone focuses here on the mundane, and then they lose the taste to go to get perfection, because here I'm enjoying, there what will I do? So I better I stay here. But make some show of religion, something you have to. Or maybe not even a show, really, okay, I will do it, I'll go. But it's hard to leave all these things, because jiva has to be exchanging rasa. Jiva has to exchange rasa. We are meant to be in a state of happiness, interacting with other jivas and with the Paramatma, Supreme Personality of Godhead. We're meant to be interacting and in lila, different ways. And that is exchange of rasa. So, if we say Supreme is impersonal, that means no rasa, just dullness. It's impersonal, no qualities, no form, nothing. So in that case, the jiva will not be motivated to go back. He won't. And if we observe some of the countries which have embraced Shunyavad and impersonalism, Nirvisheshvad, they're quite some sinful places. Okay, so for example, Southeast Asia, where Buddhism is prominent, and China, they will eat all sorts of things, and not everyone, they're devotees, so they. And Shunyavad, Buddhism, where it spread, we can see that for example, people go there for different kind of tourism, basically sex tourism. It's very prominent. It's known like that. So, especially Thailand, some parts. Okay, of course, they are good people and religious and everything, but I'm speaking generally about the culture of impersonalism and Shunyavad creates this problem that it's hard for someone to focus on their spiritual life and develop because there's nothing impersonal. But Jiva has to be personal, has to be enjoying rasa. So then he's not motivated to leave this material world. He'll stay and enjoy. But Bhagavatam gives deeper knowledge about the personality of Godhead having character, full of qualities and pastimes. Then we feel, okay, I have to go there. I have to go there. And here, yes, here I'm also having pastime, but we understand that pastime is without inebriety here. Devoid of all mundane inebriety. Inebriety means imperfection, adulteration. So mundane inebriety means guna. Guna is there. When guna is there, then there's suffering. Anywhere where guna is there, basically everywhere in the material world. In Bhagavad Gita chapter 18, text 40, is it 40? 50. There it's written that actually the influence of the gun is everywhere in the creation. It's all over the creation. So whenever there is guna, there must be suffering. Because the guna is coming under Maya. And Maya is meant to make us suffer. That's the whole point. So my sense gratification, whenever I think about me, then guna is involved. If not about me, it's about Krishna, then completely nothing. So people don't have this idea that we can be engaged in activities, full of activity and also some form of enjoyment, but not in the material sense, spiritually. That is possible. Where will we get that knowledge? Actually, in the whole of the Vedas, it's not there, hardly. Where is it? Vishnu Puran, some parts are there, Padma Puran, but here in Srimad-Bhagavatam, so much detail, such that we read and it's so full of rasa, so much taste, that by reading, then we forget all other forms of rasa, jada rasa. Material, we don't want to engage in jada rasa, any form of material experience, just spiritual, because we are getting the full taste just by reading, because it's incarnation of Krishna. So the text, although we are reading, but it's absolute on the spiritual platform. We are reading means we are also experiencing by reading. So because Srimad-Bhagavatam is giving this knowledge of the spiritual rasa, and it says here the Adi rasa, so then people are able to, if they practice and follow everything, then they are able to absorb in that rasa and not in this rasa, which is actually full of suffering because of it is on the mundane platform. It's there on the mundane platform. In Vishnu Puran it says, when it explains the 3 types of energies of Krishna, so it explains how the jiva engaged within this third energy, he is experiencing suffering. Kshetragya, the knower of the body, also is a Upanishadic name for the soul. Yaya kshetragya sa veshtita nirpa sarvagya samsara tapana kilan avapnoti atra santatan. This kshetragya soul, yaya kshetragya sa veshtita nirpa sarvagya, he, although all-knowing, Sarvagya, samsara tapana kilan avapnoti atra santatan. But he became covered by this third energy, which is Maya, Shakti, samsara tapan akhilan, and is suffering all kind of miseries. Tapan, tapanti means suffering, samsara, because of material existence. He's suffering. Samsara tapan akhilan avapnoti atra santatan. He's having to accept this suffering due to association with the third energy. So the third energy actually has no jurisdiction on us if we are fully engaged and thinking about serving Krishna. But how do we do that? Because the jiva has to be in a state of enjoyment. He has to be enjoying. Because Krishna is always in enjoying state. Raso Vaisa, he is the container of happiness. So we are part and parcel of Krishna, and Krishna is pleasure always in pleasure, and we'll also be in pleasure always. But because we are small, sometimes that pleasure potency, we come out of it and into the Maya Shakti. That is the tendency, because we are small, minute, Anu. Krishna is Vibhu, we are Anu. So because we have to be engaged in some sort of enjoyment, and we don't have knowledge of the spiritual, so then we are completely engaged in this material enjoyment. How will we stop? How will we stop sinful activity? People come to us when sometimes lectures, and they say that, oh, I want to calm everything, but you know what, I'm very sinful, I do this, I do that. And, so, one person came, why didn't your friend come? He ate meat today. Okay, then how will the movement spread in the West? They're not, when is the day you eat meat? When is the day you don't eat meat? So that means no one will come to the program. So we explained them that no, actually this is for them who are eating meat, alcohol. This is for you. Come and get purified. It's meant for purification. So you come, whatever the situation is. Better not to do these things. But the whole point is how to leave off them. But you can't stop, because Jiva has to be happy, and he doesn't have jnana of that higher happiness. No, he's going for this lower happiness. And even if he has some knowledge, some idea, but he has to understand how it is. Srimad-Bhagavatam gives that knowledge. How the Supreme Personality of Godhead has pastimes, friends, activities, qualities. He has character, he has sense of humor, everything he has. So we read about that, and we read that this is more attractive. This is so attractive, I have to go there. So when we read about it, then we able to maybe decide, okay, I have to come out of that. I have to come out of this. It's not even that we decide to come out, but by reading and experiencing, we come in contact with the spiritual energy of Krishna, including Hladini Shakti, pleasure potency. Then we find out, actually, when I do those sinful things, then my happiness goes. That spiritual happiness goes. So better I don't do it. Some say, okay, I'll stop eating meat, I'll not have alcohol. But more what I notice is this is what happens, that they're experiencing this bliss, and then that realization comes that if I go for that material happiness, that spiritual bliss gets shut off, and I don't want it to shut off. So better let me just stop those things which is blocking me, because rasa, that is, has to be there. Jiva has to be in rasa. So he can choose jada, ras, chinmay ras, in other words, bhakti rasa. So as we know that Rupa Goswami had written the whole book on this, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the nectar derived from the ocean of devotion. We need an ocean of happiness, not a drop of rasa. Jada rasa is like a drop, and it's not actually coming to us, because as Prabhupada explained, that material senses are covered. It's like we are covered. We have that tongue is covered, and then you put something to eat, it will not touch the tongue. Or we cover the ear, and you want to hear, you cannot hear. So how can you enjoy? You cannot. Material senses are covered. Jadendriya, they are covered due to false ego. So if it's covered, then how will you enjoy it? Not possible. So we have to uncover, remove the covering. The cover is removed. Just when the Maya Shakti withdraws. When will it withdraw? When you change your desire to serve Krishna. But how will we do that if we don't know? Consciously we have to, through intelligence, make a decision that I'm going to do this, I won't do that. But you'll not do unless you're fully informed. You have to be informed. Just like a salesman will come and sell and sell and push, or you have to buy this, it's like this and like that. Okay, this will benefit me, then we buy it. So similarly, one has to be convinced. If you are convinced, then we'll take it. Otherwise we go for jadaras. And we'll find most miserable people are those who are seeking after material happiness, actively looking for it. Because when you do that, no spiritual happiness will come. So the Bhagavatam has such a great position in Vedic literature because it's giving the spiritual rasa in the form of the text. But it's coming in the text also. It comes. Therefore it says, Pipatam Bhagavatam Rasamalayam. Muhaho rasika bhuvi bhavuka. That will be 2 verses away. Drink the rasa of Bhagavatam. This section is just like a preview for the next, that other verse. So those who deny personality of God, then this will not be possible. But how can you deny? By reading Bhagavatam, it makes you very well equipped to deal with any atheistic arguments. Very clearly it's given that, okay, everything here in the material world is from the Creator, yeah. So Creator must have it in Him. Otherwise, where did it come from? It has to be in Him plus more. He will have that plus more. And we will have some part. We cannot have everything the Creator has. Consequently, man, without information of the actual spiritual form of sex, has accepted perverted material sex life as all in all. There is a distinction between sex life in the diseased material condition and spiritual sex life. There's a distinction, big distinction, gold and iron. So practically after this it will not be discussed because it's not in our realization. But Srila Prabhupada, just like in any religious system, Sambandha Abhideya Prayojan. We actually look at Prayojan first. Then we begin the Sambandha process. We want to see, where am I going if I practice this? What happens? Oh, by worshipping demigod you'll go to his planet. No, I want to go to Krishna. We see the Prayojan. So here Prabhupada is giving that Prayojan ultimately to connect through Adi Rasa, not Jara Rasa. So then after that the instructions are given from first canto how to come on that platform. There is a distinction between sex life in diseased material condition and spiritual sex life. Material condition is diseased. It's disease. Disease means not normal. It's not our normal condition. It is abnormal. And if you're not in your normal condition, then you are suffering. You're not peaceful, you're not happy. And what do you do if you find out I'm not well? Get well. Treat yourself. So Srimad-Bhagavatam will give knowledge and will give that what we are seeking. Jiva is pleasure seeking. In military they have what they call heat seek missile. You fire, it will find the heat. In other words, the plane or tank. The tank turns, it will turn. The plane goes, it will. So Jiva is pleasure seeking. We will find where's the pleasure. And if we taste that higher pleasure, we'll go after that. That's what I want. And we've seen people do that. They get addicted to prasad and kirtan. They got the taste. So Jiva, especially if they're not very covered, they'll very quickly, otherwise it takes time. But if the Jiva gets the taste, then he'll come. So Srimad-Bhagavatam does it like that. It reveals Krishna's pastime and Leela and his form and guna, beautiful qualities, and I don't know, the adjectives are there in English to describe. They'll be there in Sanskrit. Super excellent, Prabhupada said something, super excellent pastimes. And so Bhagavatam reveals that, and that's what Krishna came to do. He came to perform his pastimes to attract us back. That we'll see, look, this is the life, that is not. So by reading Bhagavatam, one is able to give up that rasa, lower rasa. And the personalist form of worship is more natural and very powerful for the jiva to give up material life. Understanding that higher dimension, then we can nicely absorb ourselves and understand there's something higher, so what am I doing here? And forget about after death, but right now also, we experience. Experience is there. We don't wait when you die, then this and that, you go to Goloka. Yeah, okay. But right now, that iha yasya hare dasya karmana manasagira nikhila avastha su jivan mukta sa uchyate. One who is engaged with his mind, body and words, fully engaged in dasya, in the service of Krishna, Nikhila, in completely, Nikhilas, Avi Avasthasu, Jivan Mukha Sochate. He is known as a liberated Jiva. He is not in material condition. Because anytime we connect to Krishna, that is a liberated state. When we don't, we are not liberated. So if we are constantly serving Krishna by speaking, by acting, with our words, body, mind, then he's not in the material world. He's not. And that is actually, that level of sannyas means that they're on that level constantly. And it's not easy for Jiva who doesn't have that taste. So, but by practice we can do that. This last paragraph of Srimad-Bhagavatam, purport to 111 by Srila Prabhupada says, the Srimad-Bhagavatam will gradually elevate the unbiased reader to the highest perfection stage of transcendence. Unbiased means if we read and hear with faith, Shanvata Shradaya Yukta. With faith we hear, not with a challenging way or finding error. But if you read in a humble, submissive way to get that knowledge, it will come. Shanvata Shradaya Nitya Grinatas Cha Svacheshtitam Kalena Nati Dirghena Bhagavan Vishato Hirdihi. It says, those who hear with faith, Shradaya, Shinvata, Nitya, constantly, daily, always, Gurnatascha Svacheshtitam, accepting Krishna's activities, accepting Krishna with faith. Kalena Nati Dirghena Bhagavan Vishato Hirdihi. Then, Dirgha means long time. But the shlok says, Kalena, time, Nati Dirghena, not after long time. Supreme Lord appears in the heart. Not after long, it means very fast. Bhagavatam has that potency. It will enable him to transcend the three modes of material activities. It's so hard. Mama Maya Duratyaya, so hard to cross over. But one who has accepted Bhagavatam, daily reading, and as yesterday we looked at some verses, it said there, if you meditate on one verse a day of Bhagavatam, you get liberated. So many points were given. What other Puranas glorify Bhagavatam. So it will enable him to transcend the three modes. The Srimad-Bhagavatam. Therefore it's our main text. It's the main book now for Kali Yuga and main activity in ISKCON, morning Srimad-Bhagavatam class. And it helps one to transcend the different activities of fruitive action, speculative philosophy, and worship of functional deities inculcated in Vedic verses. I think this would, you can translate this: fruitive action, karma, speculative philosophy, jnana, and worship of functional deities as inculcated in Vedic verses. Karma, jnana, yoga means be karma kand, perhaps. Okay, so all other inclination we have to worship God in this or that way will be removed, and we'll direct, it will help us to fully engage in bhakti. This is great benefit of Srimad-Bhagavatam. Hare Krishna. Srimad-Bhagavatam ki jai.